the unit to the top of the ramp,
or does it displace to the bottom?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think Hero was hoping that maybe the Immortal either doesn't move,
or he
gets displaced to the top.
and
but he got displaced to the bottom.
That's a really good point, actually, because Parting had all of his Stalkers on the ramp as well.
Yeah.
Like, the Immortal was behind the Stalkers at that point, so maybe Hero did actually click the, the very edge of his, into the middle, where he would get that high ground vision, and it was displaced because of the positioning of Parting Stalkers, so perhaps something he didn't take into account there. It was a really good plan, and he didn't even execute it poorly. It was like, there's the Immortal, let's go, but perhaps if that was his intention, then maybe the game mechanics there not quite working in his favor.
Yeah, and that might be just kind of a knowledge advantage that Parting has. I've never really seen an opponent camp the ramp like that. It can be a little bit dangerous if the opponent moves in with a sentry and then cuts your army in half. But he knew that CJ Hero was purely on Blink Stalkers, and maybe this is a tried and tested tactic. I'm very intrigued. I feel spoiled having seen a game like that.
But Retribution was swift. That's one thing we can say about that game. And Parting's micro afterwards, because he did, don't forget, he didn't do it once, he did it twice. After it happened the first time, he kept the Immortal there, and it actually happened again the second time that Hero came in and blinked in and tried to pick it off. So
he's like, I'll have more where that came from.
At the very least, by the second time that we know that Parting knew what he was doing, and possibly during the first time as well, just really good hold there. Let's see what happens in game number 2, though. The map is Daybreak. CJ enters Hero going up against Star-Tail Parting here at the StarCraft World Championship Series Asia Finals. Let's get into the game.
Map is going to be Daybreak, and as it stands, Parting is leading 1-0. Keep in mind the winner will face Liquid Hero in that Constellation Finals in order to be able to challenge SKT1 Rain in the Grand Finals, who's sitting pretty there. It's going to be hard for Hero. It's very risky to be down 0-1 in a PvP.
It really is, but he's been playing quite strong all day, I think it's safe to say. Rain, I believe, knocked him down here to the lower bracket. So, and he's already in the Grand Finals, so it's not like he's lost to someone random, you know. It was a really, really good player that knocked him down, and I reckon he does fancy his chances against Parting. Let's just say it, because if he didn't, he wouldn't necessarily go for something that's so unbelievably aggressive on map number 1. And in slightly different circumstances, he would have won that game. It was looking good for him after all. Parting did a risk, and it paid off for him. Yes, okay, it was like a series of circumstances managed to get him to do it, but that hold was beautiful, and I think we should give Parting credit for that. It was
definitely.
It was really, really good. So let's see what they end up doing here in game number 2.
I saw an interview just now from SKT1 Rain where he said that before the tournament, he wasn't completely sure of the skill of the foreigners. That is to mean the non-Koreans.
Yep, sure.
And according to Team Liquid notes, it was like a polite way of saying that he didn't know that they were going to be that bad. That's true. But anyway,
some of them have been playing really well. Like Sen made a really deep run as well. It has to be said.
Yeah, Sen did really well. He's also the only one to have beaten a Korean player while not being Korean. That's
true, actually. What does that mean? At some point he switches to being Korean, and then he like starts owning everyone?
No, I don't think that's possible. But SKT1 Rain said the only player that he was still worried about facing was CJ Hero, and that was before he played him. Then he proceeded to beat him 2-0.
Yep, that's right. So he's sitting pretty now. He can have a little bit of a rest until the Grand Finals. Might be watching these games as well, just to see what these guys are doing, because of course he's going to be facing a Protoss, so always worth checking out what these guys are doing en route to the finals. One of these guys is going to take part in the Constellation Final after all.
Yeah, that's true. And another thing that I want to point out is that all these maps are being played with match history revealed. For those of you who don't know what that means, you can go into someone's profile and check out what build orders they have been playing, their results in their last, X how many games.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
And then you can see what strategies have they been using, and are they maybe going to be doing the same thing? Maybe prepare some counter builds against that. But then you've got the super experienced professional gamer. First of all, he's got 100 different builds. Secondly, he uses what you know about him against you.
Yeah, sure. And this is basically the high-level mind games that we're talking about here, trying to figure out what your opponent would assume about your build, and then doing something to counter that. And then your opponent's thinking about that, he's doing something to counter that, and it all gets a little bit insane. And once
until you're like at level 13 and you don't know what you're doing anymore, and you're only making probes and Nexi.
Well, it's actually it's surprisingly applicable to this situation because it's the same matchup over and over. We've got a lot of PvPs here, so they really do have to think about their build orders and like how they're going to mix it up and when, and really try and calculate it out.
Yeah, or like that, and also maybe they have to rely a lot just on their fundamentals. Like in the end, it's not only about the build order; it's also a lot about that execution. Now,
and speaking about like mind games, I'm liking the look of this. This could get really fun. Dude,
this gets so fun. You won't even want to stop laughing ever. I'm just I'm a little bit flustered by the fact that they're both going to be making Phoenixes, or should I say Phoenix. It gets really awkward when you're both on Phoenixes.
Well, are we going to see like anion pulse crystals later on to get an edge?
We might. Sometimes.
You never know, man.
When you're both on one base Phoenixes, you take your second base, you add a second Stargate, and you add a third, and then there's Fleet Beacon, and there's upgrades. It actually happens where you both just keep making Phoenixes. Because at some point, if you don't have the resources to go to Archons, which is like the best counter to Phoenixes, you're stuck on keep making Phoenixes. If you still have equal numbers, you can't just stop because they'll overwhelm you, and sometimes it gets into that really weird situation.
Well, one thing to watch at the moment, it looks like a Phoenix just went down for Startail Parting by the looks of things.
He used this Phoenix to scout, and there's no way to get away from your opponent because they can attack while moving, and they have the exact same movement speed. So now Hero is always going to be one Phoenix ahead.
So he's seen the Phoenix now. This is a tricky situation for Parting. Does he attempt to try and chrono boost out or get additional Phoenixes? Or is he looking for a way to maybe transition out of this into, for example, like trying to get Archons or more Stalkers out on the field or something like that? How do you make that decision right now?
Ideally, you'd like to transition out of it, because as soon as you're one Phoenix down, it's going to be tough, because you're always going to have one less. But there's still room for your opponent to make mistakes. Like, if a hero just moves up the ramp here and gets cut off by a force field, it could be quite disastrous for him. So Parting just has to play it cool, play it safe, don't lose anything else, and he will just be the one Phoenix behind. 3 against 4, kind of bad. If they get to like 10 against 11, it's not that bad anymore.
Yeah, sure. Then obviously percentage-wise, it's not that far behind like 3 against 4. The current supplies are effectively equal, 50 against 49 at the moment, and Parting, in the meantime, has put down a pylon at the natural expansion of Hero, trying to prevent him from expanding behind this.
Yeah, and that's smart, because he's being contained, basically. So he builds that pylon there. It will get attacked by a Zealot, but you will see this on the minimap. He warps in 3 Zealots to kill that one, and it's not like the Hero can just send his Phoenixes home to go and kill that Zealot. If that happens, this is what happens. The Phoenixes will come and kill all the army that was trying to camp the base here, and that is a huge advantage for Parting.
Parting is so smart. That was a really nice warping of Zealots at the natural, trying to bait away some of the army from Hero. And like you just said, Grubby, as soon as the Phoenix go away, this is exactly what happens. So Parting, no longer a member of this contain, and yeah, he completely obliterated the ground army there. Now, admittedly, Hero, though, has a lot of Phoenixes still out on the map, and it looks like we're going to be seeing, quite a few of Parting's Phoenixes go down in his main base.
Yeah, Hero does have the Phoenix lead. He has 8 Phoenixes against 3, but Parting has more probes. He's up 7 probes. He has more ground army. All Hero has right now is the advantage in the Phoenix numbers.
And what is Parting going to be doing about it? We can actually see him. He's continuing to chrono boost his Stargate. So he's not immediately going for some other tech. He is ahead in probes, like you mentioned. So he is possibly going to be able to expand sooner than Hero now. Blocking that expansion and then destroying the ground army gives him a little bit of leeway in that regard. But I'm not sure if now is the correct time. I mean, that number of Phoenix is still quite dangerous. If Parting leaves his base, for example, or tries to defend multiple locations, Hero might actually be able to swoop in. And there's a lot of energy on those Phoenix. He could kill a lot of probes with that.
I think if Hero, let's say if Parting just goes to stand in the corner of the room, ashamed, covering up himself, Hero can just go and kill every single probe. It's that much energy is what he has.
Yeah. So
Hero's the one to expand first, so I'm not sure what Parting is about to do.
Here we go. Hero's going to be turning around with the Phoenix to try and move into the main base because Parting's actually moving with his ground army towards the main base of Hero, but no, he actually turns around. So he was thinking about a counterattack to try and kill as many probes as he can, and he thought better of it in the end by the looks of things. And Parting is now going to be aggressive against Hero.
All the Phoenixes are going to be going down. There's only one Phoenix left for Parting. He cancels that Nexus and is now just on massive amounts of Stalkers. Does Hero have the army to take out that many Stalkers? There's no Immortals out, no robotics facility, so he would have to force field Parting away from this ramp.
This is looking, well, it's like we have a little bit of a stalemate here for now, but Parting going to try and warp in on the high ground through that pylon. And it looks like he is determined to try and break in here. He has the one Phoenix for high ground vision, and he's keeping it in the back behind the Stalkers. So smart, so that Hero can't just swoop in and kill off that one Phoenix without losing a couple of his own as well. Let's see if he can make his way up the ramp here.
I'm really liking Hero's chances here. He can either pick off one Stalk at a time and kill it in about 3 or 5 seconds or so, or he can lift up like 60% of the Stalkers, leaving only 4 on the low guard and just killing everything down there.
That's a really good point. If he lifts a whole bunch of them up at once and then just moves in with the Zealots, the DPS on the remaining Stalkers could be quite good for Hero. So we are waiting for the inevitable engagement on the ramp. Things very, very tense there. Pylon on the high ground actually getting cancelled briefly there as Parting just looks like he's just going to be going for an expansion instead. Interesting.
Yeah, Parting gonna go for an expansion and that blink tech. It was ridiculous that Parting was staying that long on the ramp. If Hero force fielded his Stalkers, he would just get a lot of free kills. But now the situation is, since there's so many Phoenixes, he can go and kill Stalkers in the main base of Parting. He will get the first Stalker, get the second one that's warping in, and keep in mind it does pause warp in. And there we go, that's so many Phoenixes. There's 10 Phoenixes. He can go and start the hunting season. It's probe killing time, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing Parting can do about this right now.
That was, no, I completely agree with you. Parting stayed at the ramp quite a long time. But even when he didn't, I think Hero knew that, you know, his Phoenixes are so fast, he can fly back across the map faster than Stalkers can walk. Yeah. And he's really abusing this now to try and kill off as many probes as possible. Parting forced to move all his probes away, and he is losing mining time behind this as well. And now Hero is going to be taking his expansion once more. Yeah,
and Parting even cancelled his Nexus. He realized that 19 probes isn't quite the amount of probes that you would like.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, he's just going to kill every single probe here. Although if he does, he probably ends up using too much energy.
Yeah, Hero
and the
won't be able to
counter push
lift
could
up.
be risky.
So he might not have too much energy left to, for example, do some sort of maneuver involving lifting up all the Stalkers if Parting decides to go for a huge push. But Hero's Gateway army is not small, man.
Yeah, and, it's not evolved, it's not upgraded at all with anything, but it's just so big.
Yeah, and he's going to be on the top of the round, and with Phoenix support, this could be quite good for Hero. He's currently up 83 supply to 42 as well. Parting going for a little bit of a last-ditch attempt here. Is it going to work? Force field on the ramp, and now the Phoenixes are picking up Stalkers, slowly picking them up, Parting down to 36 supply versus the 83 of Hero.
And this just looks so good for Hero. It looks like he'll be able to equalize this series. There's almost no doubt about it. Parting trying to do whatever blink breaker he can, but he's working off of 6 probes, so he has no reinforcements to speak of whatsoever. So even though there's no blink for Hero, and there's a blink in. GG. That was a manner blink right at the end.
Oh my goodness. What a fun game that turned out to be, Grubby. That was really, really interesting.
It was, and somehow I feel like a lot of that came down to the very first Scout Phoenix by Parting.
Yeah, it was just one Phoenix ahead, and
that made it so that he knew that he's never gonna win like an equal Phoenix battle, so he can't be on the map anymore with his Phoenixes, which means that he needs to stay with his army, and that gave Hero the mobility and the option and the map control to camp the ramp there of Parting. For a moment it looked like it was almost going to be super bad for him, but because he had the Phoenix lead, he had so much options to engage wherever. And actually, in terms of fighting units, Phoenix fare the best in PvP. There are moments where you can just keep making Phoenixes, and you'll do great against Immortals, Colossi, Zealots, Stalkers in the right conditions, Avoid Race, Carriers, I'm not so sure. And
Maybe
Archons.
not quite. But there were a couple of like really good maneuvers in that game. The pylon at the natural blocking the Nexus. Oh yeah, I'll just send one Zealot, and actually there are warpins there luring the Phoenix away and then destroying the ground army.
Yeah.
That was ingenious from Parting. The problem is he also made a mistake. He was camping out outside Hero's base for quite a while, and Hero just went, well, what happens if I move all my Phoenixes over to where you are? And
he killed 3 stalkers and he killed like 10 probes, and it was deadly, man.
It's often saying it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make, it's who makes the last mistake there.
Oh.
And Hero capitalized on that so well at the end of that game, killing off so many of the probes, forcing the mining time to come out, and then basically forcing Parting into an all-in.
That is true, man.
It didn't work.
That is, I mean, that's very true. The last mistake is usually the one that makes you lose.